Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Perfect community. Welcome to TRH, the Reconnection Hour by Mr. Perfect. I'm Terry, as you know, founder, CEO of Mr. Perfect. What is Mr. Perfect? Most of you know by now. We are a charity that bring men together at barbecues across Australia to create communities and connection, mainly for the betterment of mental health and also to reduce isolation. What's TRH? We've been going a few months now. As you know, the Reconnection Hour, we normally chat to either health professionals or other people doing incredible things in the world of men's health, mental health and connection. This week we're actually chatting to a health professional, so I'll say more about that shortly. We'll say though, just to be on the safe side, I've started to offer a bit of a disclaimer or at the start of these, if we discuss anything gory, which I don't think we will, but we don't usually, but just to let you know that mental health will be discussed. So just to be aware, a little bit about my week, or Mr. Perfect's week as well. We have been nominated for an award by the AMHF, the Australian Men's Health Forum, who I'm sure you've heard me talk about on here previously. The award is actually for our significant response to COVID-19, which is a bit of a mouthful, but it was a nice surprise. Someone nominated us, which was incredible, and very happy about that. Now, we also are going on a seminar tomorrow at 11 a.m. with the AMHF, which I'll put the link on our Facebook page and group shortly. And I'm being asked to be on a panel, so it'd be great if anyone wants to tune in and chat with us. It's part of their Men's Health Month routine. They've got lots of chats going on. They've got a lot of programs, seminars, webinars across the whole month. So make sure you tune into that. We've got a bunch of barbecues back on this weekend, which is so good. I think we've got 7. Which is incredible on Sunday. We're abiding by the rules and everything else. Look, personally, I've been back to exercise this week, which is incredibly good for me. My body doesn't agree, but shout out to the mongrels, who are my AKA C4th FC over 35s. Been a great week for me to get back to exercise, and been good for my head as well. Been burning the candle a bit at both ends, but that means some late nights, coffee, tea. The day job's really busy at the moment as well, but all in a good way. But it means sometimes my anxiety is definitely raised. So tonight we're speaking one of the first people who actually asked me about my anxiety and asked me to describe it in a way which I hadn't before and what it feels like. So tonight we are chatting to Dr. Mark Cross. Mark's a prominent Sydney psychiatrist. He's on the board of SANE, the mental health charity, who's one of our great partners. He's written a book called Anxiety, which I believe is a bestseller. I'm sure it is. I've seen a lot of it because I've got a little section in it and a little bit about Mr. Perfect. And he played a huge part in the Changing Minds, the go-to guide to mental health, which was developed out the landmark ABC TV series as well. Our conversations, Mark and I, when we chat and catch up, they're always warm, they're never dull. And I have endless amounts of respect for this man and his candidness and what he's done personally and professionally for mental health. So without further ado, welcome Dr. Mark Cross. Mark, how you going?
Hey guys, hi Terry. Nice to see you.
What's happening? Where are you? What are you doing?
So I'm in my house in the Blue Mountains at the moment, actually. It's about 5 degrees outside and raining. I love it. So we've got a place in Lura. And actually, I've been here full-time since March, so it's a great place to isolate. Plus, excellent. I turned 55 4 weeks ago, and it's always great living in an area where everyone else is older than you. So,
but you're not retiring yet. I hope not. Anyway, there's plenty more to do, right?
I want to, but no, I'm not retiring yet.
Laura is a beautiful part of the world. I went there, I think, for an anniversary. My wife and I's anniversary years ago. To a little French house, and it was so good just to get out of, because at the time I'd not really seen much of outside of Sydney, and actually just getting an hour or so outside, we went to Lura and I just loved it. Like, I would love to live out there if I could, but that's good for the head, nice and peaceful, I hope, as well. So I normally...
Was that Le Gobelet? Can you remember Le Gobelet?
Oh, it was...
the French restaurant. It's closed now. The French guy and his wife used to run. He was a great chef, but he used to get into these moods. and get angry, and then sometimes have a fit and then leave the restaurant before everyone had their dessert.
Full of characters then.
There we go.
Excellent. Well, look, we normally start these chats by asking our guests a little bit about them. Be as broad as you like, but I generally ask, I guess, a little about your story, anything you want to include, anything you don't want to include, that's up to you as well. Maybe a little bit about your upbringing and what brought you to Australia, really, and how you got into medicine and psychiatry.
Yeah, so you heard from the accent. I was born and raised in South Africa. And I joked about being 55, but yeah, I feel old now. But I was born in 65, the last year of Generation X, so I'm hanging in there.
Wow.
From, my parents, my father, I love my father. I remember listening to the moon landing on the radio when I was 4 with my father. And his father was killed in a hunting accident when he was 3. And so he and the older brother were sent to an orphanage where he grew up, and he worked his way up in the bank. He didn't go to university. So I'm one of the first in his family who's ever gone to university. So he came from the wrong side of the tracks. And my mother comes from slightly more, middle-class background.
Yeah.
And they've been together. It's amazing. They've been together 56 years now. So I was brought up in a very stable environment. But from an early age, I knew I was different.
Yeah.
And I had anxiety, as I've discussed with you before. I was aware I was an anxious kid. And during primary school and into high school, I realized I was also gay. And that in a time in South Africa in the 1970s, like here in Australia, masculinity, sport was a big thing. And, hey, I was a prefect and I was a middle distance athlete and I did very well academically. But I was always trying to prove myself and prove who I was. So I always had that. And then, of course, I went to university in Cape Town, and I'd gone to a co-ed school, and I've always been very comfortable with women. And, of course, then I became very popular in the class because all these private school boys had no idea how to talk to girls. So it was quite incredible. Here I was 17 years old, and I was more sort of, I wouldn't say manly, but sort of things more than them. And I studied in Cape Town and did my house job in a rural place, sort of semi-rural in East London, South Africa. My father was a local bank manager. And I opened the psychiatry ward the year after my house job. I did psychiatry. I went straight into mental health. And I opened the ward to all races for the first time in South Africa's history. And my then consultant, my supervisor, was 300 miles away. So I learned from the nurses. And so I suppose I've always had a very practical approach to how I deal with things and psychiatry. And then I went to England to discover myself. And I finally went, hey, I better come out at some stage.
Yeah.
It was hard. And I went to England when I was 25. And I did this locum in this hospital in London. And this frowsy consultant woman came on the Monday morning. And she goes, okay, bring in the new patients. I said, I've discharged them all. She said, what? You can't you're a locum junior doctor. I'm the consultant. I said, well, they didn't need to be in hospital. I discharged them. So then I had to learn how to do things properly because of giving free rein. And I did my training in England, met John, my husband, God, that's 20 years ago now. Turned 40, and I had a very successful job and life in London, career, friends, the works. And we decided to come to Australia. I still have actually no idea how I ended up here. I saw an ad in the British Medical Journal, answered it, and boom, we came. And we have never looked back. So it was 15 years ago. And, I have to admit, I'm fairly successful in my job, worked hard, but I've been very open and passionate about mental health, as you know, Terry, and consumer focus. And we've got 2 beautiful boys with a lesbian couple, so we're part of a Rainbow Families network. And my boys are 10 and 7, or 9, nearly 10 and 7. And now, at the age of 55, I'm wearing my reading glasses so I can see you on the screen. It's really lovely, the aging bit. But I feel really lucky to be Australian. And, just in this time of COVID, which maybe we'll come to, but here we are. And a little bit about me and where I see myself now is living in a country which I love, although my heart's always in Africa. My parents are still, and I've got kids. And I never thought that I'd have children. And that's been the most amazing thing in my life.
That's amazing. No, that's incredible. Because I did know you'd mentioned that, but we hadn't talked about that previously about kids. And I think, I don't know, like personally, I think maybe I've told you, I've got a 2 and 4-year-old. And it's only, I've always been close to them, obviously. Like, and I try and be as hands-on as I can with them and around since they've been born. But right now, I feel like I'm at the peak of my involvement with them, and it's the best thing. I can't describe how good it is. Like, I actually can't. And I didn't think myself I would be, maybe I thought I'd be a dad, but I thought because of my own experiences, I thought I just wouldn't be a great dad. I had no barrier, and I had no benchmark to kind of go to. So I was anxious about that as well. Like, I would never be a dad, or I wouldn't be a good dad. So yeah, it's incredible. But I wanted to pick up on, you said as the locum, and as a young locum in London, did you feel, or even in Africa actually, you said about the ward, opening the ward, was it when you went into your professional kind of mode and putting on that, mask and everything else, did you ever feel anxious in your job? Or were you really good when you could just switch it on and off? Like, did you ever have those moments in while you were working?
Oh my God. This is the problem. Even now, everyone goes, well, a lot of people look at me and they don't see anxiety because I sound so calm. I'm the flaky mess after this, for instance, right? For me. So I have this moment. I remember my final pediatrics exam. So that was in the week of absolute whether you become a doctor or not. You can't stuff it up, right? Mm. It was my last exam ever. It might not have been. And I'm sitting there, and you talk about anxiety. So I look very calm, but meanwhile inside I'm a absolute jelly mess. So I've got that sort of withdrawn, panicked anxiety. And the examiner, which you never want in an exam, leaned across, I'll never forget, and said, would you rather be at the beach? So I thought it was a stupid question because obviously I would rather be at the fucking beach. But anyway, so I promise not to swear too much. But
that's fine, go for
it. It was a redundant question, right? And then I started sweating a bit, and I looked the anxious student part and managed to pass the exam. But always I look calm, and everyone used to say, Dr. Cross, you look so calm. Well, it's almost like a split off anxiety at times. I get these little headaches and withdrawal. I'm constantly still, and I mentioned earlier as a child, always trying to prove myself. Even now with awards and books and talking to you and connecting, I still feel that I'm not good enough on one level. Yeah. And, part of that's acceptance. You have to think about that in therapy and that. But it's, and trauma does play a part in my life as it does with a lot of people. So always scared that people would see my true self.
Yes.
In terms of sexuality, when I was a young person, and also medical school. So I was a medical student in the 1980s, and not only was it a criminal offense, homosexuality, but it was a mental and a medical illness. Right. So you couldn't really turn or talk to anyone about anything.
Yeah.
But I suppose on a positive note, I told you to stop me rambling, right? But
no, go for it. This is fascinating.
Because I've had all those things myself and my whole life, and always been attuned to stuff. It's made me more attuned to people.
Yes.
And so even now, when I'm more open about myself, and that's been a hell of a journey, right? Yeah. I can go into my office and talk to my patients and go, hey, I'm gay, how's your day? It has to be done properly, and it's not my agenda, all that. And I've had some pretty rough, tough men as patients in my past. And even when they've known that I'm gay, and partly, when I was younger, I thought, oh God, I hope they don't find out, blah, blah, blah. They've always just looked at me and gone, but you're my doctor and I connect with you. Yes. And that's a pretty amazing thing, because I don't use it. People have their own journey, right? And I can sit there sometimes and I see younger men or older men, And I'm sitting there and they're talking to me, and inside I'm going, please come out. Just come out. Just say it. And they won't. But that's not for me to say, hey, but it's now I'm rambling. Now you better ask me another question. But I mean, I think that's that's what makes it raw and meaningful. Would I have chosen not to be? Probably. And I still, look at all that stuff and look at my sons, and it's funny. We try to raise them. The lesbians are little hippy dippy lesbians, and they're really into non-identity and all that, and play with dolls and wear makeup and blah blah blah. And all my sons want to do now is watch Marvel comics and shoot and we try. They're real boys. And we joked that day. We were talking. Somebody asked me, well, what would you do? What about this? Of course, I don't care. But I have a fantasy about one of them coming to me when they're 16 and going, Dad, I'm sorry, I'm just not gay.
Yeah.
Okay, son, I love you anyway. So it's pretty cool. And again, all this stuff has also made me disconnect at times. I'm quite empathic, but I've got a little bit of Aspergery stuff going, so I can disconnect.
Yes.
And that's helped in a way with emotions. And I'm ambivalent about everything, so that's not very helpful with love and family.
Of course.
And when I had my second boy, who's not mine biologically, by the way, I had to pull over to the side of the road once because I burst into tears when we were talking about him. And I hate showing emotion. I'm a psychiatrist. It's quite incredible having that, but it's connection, and I've used that in my clinical work as well.
Yeah. There's so much you said there that resonated. I'm trying to remember all the stuff, but resonating to me personally, the thought of we'll go to the closest thing you said. You can show at times, you can appear as though you are ambivalent. Right? So people might say to me at work, they see this very calm in the face of anything. It could literally be anything, and they see me as calm, so they come to me for that calmness. Yet when I'm on the bus in the morning, I'm far from calm. Like that's when I'm going, shit, I've got all this stuff to do today. I'm worrying about the charity, I'm worrying about work, worrying about the kids, worrying about someone to go home, and the build up, the constant noise and everything else. And I'm just very good at shutting it off and appearing as though everything's in control. So that resonated hugely. But also the fact, and for slightly different reasons with your boys, you worry that they will be like you, not in a bad way, but I say to myself about my 4-year-old, because he's very sensitive and very thoughtful and whereas my 2-year-old's just like rough. He doesn't give a care, doesn't even think about doing anything. I go, what if he comes to me at 10, 12, 14, 16, whatever it might be, and says, yeah, like I'm not feeling that good or whatever. And that like freaks me out in one sense, but it also makes me go, I hope he does do that. Like with the minute he realizes something's up or he doesn't feel great, I will have the ability to go, it's okay. I've been through it. So those things are just, resonate hugely and about not feeling you're enough. It's like, what's the barrier? So my psychologist says to me, okay, you describe this perfect life. What you keep saying, you keep ranking it out of 100 and you say you're only working at 30% of your ability or you're only being so what does the perfect scenario look like? And I can't answer it. He's like, well, what the F are you doing then? And he's so blunt with me. He's like, you can't describe it, yet you're continually trying to attain it. He said, just pat yourself on the back for 1 second, and stop. Because if you stop now and didn't do anything for 10 years, you'd still achieved a lot. I have to go, I take that on a little bit and I have a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes where I pat myself on the back and there's back to normal again. So I can hugely resonate with that. It's like, where do you stop? How do you stop?
Well, just coming back to the son, though, it doesn't even matter if you don't even have to say you're okay. It's just so amazing that he'd come to you. Oh, that's amazing, because I know my sons can say whatever they want to me, which you and I didn't have when we were growing up. Yeah. Although my father, when I was 18, sat me down, and he never had a father, right? So he said to me, okay, I'm going to stop being your dad and I will be friends. He's my best friend. I mean, he's the most wonderful man. And then he just relaxed into it. Like he thought he had to follow a script. And of course, we all feel that. And But coming back to you, what you just said, my God, I said it to my patients all the time. Be kind to yourself, be self-compassionate, because self-stigma, all those things, that's the worst kind of stigma. And you're constantly comparing yourself with this avatar. This avatar, it's a bloody avatar. No one can be that perfect. And then, of course, smart Alec patients, because they don't listen to Doctor Knows Best. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
They go, how's that working for you, Mark?
The open dialogue like you have, or the way you come across and you have done to me, like I don't see. I think it's interesting because I've talked to other doctors as well recently, and the refreshing stereotype, which I still had a bit in the back of my head, and I work with doctors in my job, of, oh no, I have to speak to them like this, I have to address them like this, I have to think that they will only deal with this on this. And then when you actually get to know people, especially people working in mental health, the refreshing nature of what they've said to me recently is, I can only really connect with my patient if I come to that level of compassion. I don't even need to say too much. Like you said, like it's almost drawing it out, but not forcing it out of them. And that's a common theme I've seen recently. And that's really nice for other people to hear as well, and get over that thought of, well, if I am going to go and see a mental health professional, whoever it may be, it's really not going to be that, it won't be that bad. Like they're not going to, they've heard everything, they've probably seen everything. They're not going to run from the room. It's very unlikely. But.
No, but it takes so long for people to trust that. And it's,
of course,
part of the compassion is also, you can tell me something, and I do say, and maybe, I think I get it right most of the time, but I say to people, I only judge two things. Because people feel judged and shame and guilt and all that. I say, I judge two things. If you hurt kids,
yes,
and hurt cats, because I'm a cat person. So animals generally, that's good. But, cats right up there. So my kids know my cats right at the top of my list. So, it's so important because there's so much shame and stuff within us that takes so long to, hopefully we get to deal with it. But that's what interests me. And then, it's like peeling that onion. You don't just cut through to the heart.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the greatest analogy, but it is. It's about getting to the heart of the artichoke or something when you're with someone. And it's about them. Because part of therapy is about you acknowledging and accepting. And just accepting doesn't mean just accept whatever life throws at you. Accept what you can change and what you can't change. Like going bald. I mean, I have beautiful hair. So, my son's got this thick, lustrous hair. But hey, it's just, I had to embrace it, right? And there's some things that you just go, well, who cares, and try and flick it off. But it does take a while. It takes a while.
No, I love it. And did you, I guess with men specifically in your work, what do you find works? What do you find works for you to connect with them? And what doesn't work as well? Have you had experiences where it hasn't gone so well and they haven't connected? Do you have like a secret sauce for it, or is it just,
Oh God, I work hard at it. I mean, sometimes, it's funny, but I just, I don't know if you've heard of Barry Nichols. He's this lovely ABC commentator in Perth.
Look it up, yeah.
He's interviewed me a couple of times, and he's got his own mental health issues. He's very open. And actually, in my last interview, I mentioned you. But anyway, and we joked about cricket, because when I was growing up in South Africa in the 70s, oh my God, we were dragged to every sporting event known to humankind. And I was a caddy, a ball boy, a bat boy. Sport was our life. The cricket, I mean, you might not, we used to go to these 5-day cricket matches. I'd be so bored. And then...
I'm not a lover of cricket, honestly. I'm not.
Then I go to the toilet, and of course they'd hit the 1 and 6 of the day, and then you'd be sitting there.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're joking about this, and he's a real cricket fan. And so he's now, through his publisher, writing the flyleaf of his new book on cricket and mental health.
Amazing. I love it.
Which is
say anything to mental health now, right? You can.
Yeah, it's very about a connection. And, partly I was joking, and you've got to connect. You've got to find. So I use my own story quite a bit to connect with people. And sometimes it doesn't work, because it also depends on the journey of the person. Because often, so we talk about a presenting complaint in mental health. So that means, why are you here? And I'll be sitting and I'll talk to this man, and he goes, because my wife said she'll leave me if I don't come and talk to you. That's a great. Then I go, oh my God, I'm really going to have to work hard to reel you in now and engage with you on some level. But sometimes they think of something, they're in South Africa or gay or something, and they come in expecting us not to have similarities.
Yes.
And of course we have similarities. So you work on the similarities and you work on what's important to you. And hey, I had that experience when I was growing up. And that's a real engagement tool in terms of a therapeutic, what I call a therapeutic alliance with someone. And also to know, and I say, I don't judge. You don't have to talk about anything. This is a safe space, but it's about you. And, I'm going to get paid irrespective. So if you want to sit there in silence for an hour and a half, I'll go tell your wife that you were fine, or not. But people realize then, okay, wow, they finally got to see a psychiatrist. And that takes a lot, actually, especially when you can't get in to see one. And so when you're there, you've got to think, okay, who am I kidding? Or why am I still so defensive? Why am I still cutting off my nose to spite my face? All those stupid old, wives' things, old wives' tales, or what they're called. And you go, okay. And then you can just see them relaxing, and you go, okay, I've got an entry here. And then we have a chat. But I always allow for about 90 minutes anyway when I first meet someone.
And how much of that would you say is, and I'm assuming a lot of it is textbook, like what you've learned clinically over the years and what you've had to learn and study and everything else? And how much over the years do you think you've relied more on your gut or your own personality? Has it changed, do you think, over the time? Is it just like that experience has come, or how much do you let of you come out, like your real, compassionate self, and how much do you keep the clinical stuff?
It's a hard thing because we were taught at medical school to be, stiff upper lip, don't share of yourself. And it's advice I've always ignored. So I've always been a little bit, whatever. But also very neurotic. So, hey, I've always worried about what people think of me. So there's this raging imbalance at times. But it's gut feeling, and it's hard. Even as a tutor, and I'm a mentor, and I teach training doctors, right? Medical students. And sometimes in mental health, there's like some cultural issues and all that. That's fine. You've either got it or you haven't. And you either know how to speak to someone and get their story and get them to engage with you, or you haven't. And you can hone some skills, but textbooks are textbooks. They're not going to help that. And I'm lucky. I've always had that ability. Even as a medical student, there's something about me. I've never been beaten up, right? And I've been a bit, in your face at times. I've got drunk. Alcohol looms large in my family, and when I was younger. And when I get a little bit intoxicated at a park or party or whatever, I'll go up to these big guys with these women, and I'll speak to the woman and go, how does he treat you? Is he nice to you? He looks like he's a bit mean. Is he okay? Where the hell does that? Anyway, so this is what I do, right? I go, my friends just go, oh, Jesus, here we go again. And then they pull me off. So, and no one's ever hit me. They pick me up and throw me away and go away. But, I think I'm a short ass, as you know. I'm this, no, I've never been a threat to. So men don't find me a threat. So I think that's a big thing. No one finds me a threat. And so I use that as an engagement tool, and then they can relax as well as a result of that, I think.
Yeah. And you obviously, I want to talk about a couple of things you've done that, I guess, in the public, like you've been interviewed a fair amount and done things in the media, but you've also written Anxiety, the book. So I wanted to ask you about that, not just because I'm in it, but I wanted to ask you, anxiety was a theme or something we talked about a lot personally. Is that something you see more of now in the people that come to you, or generally, how do you feel about that in the world? And two, how did you write a whole book about it? How did you get so much material to write that book?
Well, I suppose, okay, to answer that bit, Okay. Well, anxiety generally is the most common mental health condition, right? So 14% in the 2007 survey, 2017-18, we have mental health surveys in Australia. If you add anxiety disorders plus people with anxiety and depression, that goes up to 17%. So, and also I work in private practice now. So by and large, you get this sort of more milder form of illness, although I have quite complex people come to see me linked to SANE and my work in changing minds. So in private practice, people have to come and see you voluntarily. So they have to have a level of insight and understand what's going on with them and want help, right?
Of course.
So that I do see a lot more people with anxiety. Plus, as you said, I've written a book about it. I know quite a bit about it firsthand and in terms of being an expert, which is obviously linked to me knowing about it firsthand. So I can meld textbook and my own stuff and treat people. And how do I get to write the book? Well, my publisher, after my first book, Linked to Changing Minds, that was a general primer for the public on mental health issues, said to me, hey, you've got anxiety. It's quite topical. What do you think? Why don't you write a book about it? I went, yeah, because I always do, because I don't like saying no to people. That's one of my issues. And then I went home and had a panic attack. So I thought, what the hell have I done? That was in 2017. So it took me 2.5 years to write. And it took a while. And then I met wonderful people like you who wanted to give themselves of the book. And that's what makes the book so amazing, I think, in terms of the narrative. So I've got 32 people. 5 of my friends, 20 SANE peer ambassadors. So these are people with complex mental health issues, but with anxiety disorders. And then 5 of my patients, the people I actually treat, said, yeah, I'll do it. Because everyone had to be themselves, be open. And, that's the way I'm going. I expect everyone to do the same. And so that was pretty amazing. And your story is pretty amazing for those who follow Terry. Not that I'm trying to get you to buy my book, because, well, hey, buy my book. But, it's Terry's one of the amazing stories in there. And I look at themes and threads throughout what causes anxiety and with real people's stories. And I think that always makes it more readable and relatable.
Absolutely. And not just the book, but also I know we another project I was involved in that you asked me, and again I felt like I couldn't say no. I was petrified by it, but the Behind the Stigma,
the film, the documentary.
The big stigma. So Mark was involved with a great filmmaker, Hugh. What was Hugh's surname again? I couldn't remember. Hugh, that was it. Excellent. So he put together this film, and I was told, "Oh, turn up to this place," and I was given all these, just instructions. I thought, "Oh, this will be fine." And ironically, on that day, I went to the wrong place. And normally, my wife says you get to places far too early. That's part of my OCD and anxiety. Got there an hour early, sitting there outside Sydney Uni, like one of the campuses on this corner thing, and it's a beautiful day. And I thought, and then I thought, I'll just look at my phone, and I'm reading something else. And then it got closer, and it was about 10 minutes out, maybe 15 minutes away. And I again pulled out this scrunch of paper and looked at it, and I read again, and I looked at the address, and I was at the wrong place, and I was like 20 minutes away. And honestly, the anxiety I felt at that moment, like this panic attack. So I jumped to an Uber, got across to the place that was being filmed, got there, pretended I walked through that door, took it off, put my face on, and just went, yeah, I'm fine. But the people I met, my point was to say, the people I met filming that were just amazing. Every single person I spoke to, from the people that were going on before me or after me, and their stories, and then watching that film when we came to the Ramsey, the Northside Clinic, and watched it, unbelievable. It was so good. So I have to make sure. I think I've got. Is it online? Have you got the link online somewhere? I'll have to share that.
I need to say, yeah. So we that's funny though, from what you just said there, guys. So when I first met Terry, I reached out to him and I wanted to talk to him, and I completely forgot to diarize it. So he was sitting in a North Shore cafe waiting for me, and I didn't turn up. I'm not perfect, that's for sure. My time management bloody sucks. But anyway, I'll send you the link to that and the code. And I've presented it at a few conferences now via Zoom. So actually, if you want to maybe do another, we'll do a presentation or something if you like.
That would be very cool.
Yes. We can chat about it, or you can do with it whatever you want. But I'll email it to you with the code, and you can use it and download it. So we don't mind. Certainly, people in the film how you use it at all, as long as you don't make money from it. And
exactly.
And we want to get it out there. I mean, it's an amazing film, very raw, and so I'm looking at different things at the moment, working out what I'm going to do with it.
Excellent, good. No, it's good to hear. It was a pleasure to be part of it as well. I also wanted to ask you. So we had a couple of questions that came through. And as I was so engrossed, I wasn't paying attention. But Joel just said, "This is amazing already." So that's nice. Pat on the back. Thank you, mate. John, who is one, I'm just trying to find where his comment was. He was asking about South Africa. So he said, essentially, how did you feel about being gay in South Africa at that time? And also, given the, I guess, apartheid and everything that was going on and everything else, did you ever have any issues with that when treating anyone of another race, or was there any sort of tensions that you had to be really wary of at that time? Or obviously it's topical at the moment. How did you ever come across anything like that?
Well, it's quite a lot of, so at the time, so I'll come back to being a medical student. We were by law, we were to report any gunshot wound or stab wound, anyone who'd come in of color to the emergency department. So already then politics played a big part in my life, and certainly in the 1980s. I used to go to ANC communist meetings. I hate that left-wing, right-wing sort of stuff, because everyone always conflates the pinko lefty commie bastard or whatever. I go, well, actually the communists hated us too, so you can't really put gay men and communists together. So the socialists were our friends. So there you go. And in Africa, and it's this weird thing in Africa, the real hardcore African liberation movement felt that homosexuality was a Western capitalist disease, which of course is nonsense. And there's strong roots in Africa and background. So you have that with racism as well, and having to deal with race right from an early age. I was aware of it. When I was 7 or something, we played with the next door neighbor's maids' kids, and we all have what we called them maids at the time. Black women looked after us. And as a segue, sorry, just quickly, a good friend of mine wrote a thesis on being brought up by Black women and how that translates. And it's very interesting stuff. And we were playing, and then, the woman next door called us, a horrible word, K word, which is a word I can't even use, like the N word. You black lover. And so I felt, what's that about? When I was growing up, Black people had to have pass books. You couldn't be in white areas without a pass being signed. And there were benches for whites, different entrances for Blacks to go into shops, couldn't share beaches. That's how we grew up. But as a student as well, with homosexuality, if you were a Black man who was gay, I mean, that was transgender wasn't even on the radar then. When I was 19, I plucked up the courage with a friend of mine to go to a gay and lesbian meeting at university, and there were a whole lot of guys standing outside with baseball bats. So I never went in. Obviously, I never went again. So there's that, and I played. What I mean to play it down, I suppose, is just I use humor a lot and try, but it's quite traumatic. And then I think there's always people with bigger traumas than mine, but hiding yourself and having to deal with that and constant threat certainly increased my anxiety and my general sort of way of dealing with things.
No, I think that's on a point there. At times when I'm not patting myself in the back and giving myself a hard time, and going through whatever it might be. And then I go, why? And then it's like a double beat up on yourself, because you say, well, someone else must have it harder. And look at these people because of, and your trauma, no matter how big you might think it is or not, it becomes irrelevant. So it's almost like the double whammy of, okay, now you feel guilty because you're feeling, you're not feeling great, and then comparing. And I do that a lot. Like, I find myself, I think the difference is now I'm so conscious of it that I've called it this before, it's like an out of body experience. It's happening, but I'm grateful that I now know it's happening, and I just go with it, and it's not comfortable, but then I get through it. Whereas I used to think, oh, I'll go to the psychiatrist and I'll see this and I'll do this, and then it will just stop. I'll find a tool that turns it off. And I remember my psychologist saying to me, just really, so again, he's quite blunt, he's brilliant, like he's amazing, he's also very blunt. And he just said, this isn't going away. Like, so he said, you're not going to get rid of this thing. Like, you just need to learn the tools, how to deal with it and be comfortable with it, and give yourself that, look at the other, not look on the bright side. That's not what he said at all. But he said, give yourself those little legs up over the day. Like, give yourself a little win here and say that's, the tiny little things that build up, because you just need to tip the balance a bit more and accept when those things are happening. That is not always the reality of the case. And I'm lucky that I've got to that stage now where it's just, it is what it is. I know it's not comfortable, but I have to deal with it daily. So, it's that trying to remove that guilt from it, I guess. But,
well, that's important, because if you don't, minimize it. And if you minimize it, as I did for decades before I went to therapy, for instance, then it eats at you and it sits there. And of course you can always, and that's why I'm always better at other people's stuff.
So
you force yourself into that in a way because it's easier. You don't want to then look at yourself, and it's very hard looking at yourself. And I exhort my patients to sometimes look in the mirror and talk. I find it hard. Who's that bloody old, face looking back at me, telling me to like myself more. So that's a very important point. And it's one in, your therapist isn't South African, isn't it? Was she?
No.
That's pretty blunt. Because sometimes, boom, you go, you know what? You can come and talk for 10 years, but sometimes you just have to do. It's always useful when you think as well. You shouldn't just do without thinking all the time, but sometimes, you go, just do. There's that book, I haven't read it yet. The 6-second rule. I don't know if anyone's read it.
I haven't read it.
Yeah, so you count down from 6 and you just get out of bed. You don't think, oh, should I get out of bed? Let me weigh up the ways, pros and cons. Let me do some breathing. Get out of bed and go for it. So it balances out,
I think that the distraction tool, like I used to, even recently, my latest session with my psychologist, things have been like so much better and we're going good. But he would always say, but he would stop me if I tried to explain things are going good because I'm back in a routine doing this. And he said, but that's just a distraction. You're not actually tackling the things. He said, you can distract it all you like. He said, but that's the same as pushing it down. He said, and you did that for 30 years, it didn't work. Like, it led you to a bad place. Let's just, put it out on the table now. I just need that regular reminder of it. But yeah, it's there, and it's just, it's how you can deal with it. And I am lucky I connect so well with my psychologist. Also my GP, I found an excellent GP. He's exactly the same. And he doesn't push me out the door, which I heard other, experiences of. He just sits there, and even if I know he's got to pay, he just lets me talk, and he talks. And I was in there an hour last time. He didn't even, we just chatted. And I went out there feeling like so much better, just talking to him about it, because he knew, So that connection piece is, and that's the theme of what we're talking about, right?
It's amazing.
It comes. Yeah. No, go for it.
Because if not, it's so sad. And I see people who don't connect, and you finally get to see a psychiatrist and they're a plonker. And I got to go, then I got to hear, because people come and tell me these things, and I go, I'm embarrassed for my profession at times.
Yeah.
Why do people have to be like that? Finally somebody comes to see you and you go, no, you're 5 minutes late. because you were having a panic attack. Anyway, whatever. I mean, it's just it's sad because, and you know, it is your right as well. And I always say this to people: if you don't connect with someone you see, don't give up. There'll be someone else you can go to speak to.
Absolutely.
So that's important, because you know you can't gel with anyone. You don't marry the first person you meet or someone you do, but you know what I mean. So I think it's important. You got to get it right. You talked about gut instinct earlier. Always trust your gut instinct. And gut instinct is a feeling. It's an incredibly useful feeling. Never try and push it down. Only bad things happen.
No, I love it. And on the note, I guess, of connecting with your patients, I guess men particularly, what's your advice for them in terms of connection? Is there any times where they're not connecting with themselves, with the world outside there? Is there anything that you give them on sort of a social level to suggest that they may do or might or could do, or do you draw the line at that? Do you not give them too much advice in that sense?
What do you know about me so far? I don't deal with those long pauses sitting there going, you know, hey, look at it now. Sometimes I'm a bit too pushy, so that's some of my patients. Because you've got to be careful, because, you know, I say practical things and they go, okay, and I'm, you know, willing you to do that. And then sometimes the next time, my patients know me, they come in, they look a bit sheepish. And I go, what's wrong? I said, oh, you're going to be mad at me because I didn't do what you said. So you've got to be, no, that's not what it's about at all. And then I go, yes, I told you to get up for a walk every morning. Have I done that for the past month? No, I haven't. So we're in this together. Don't worry about that. I'm only telling you what's useful for you, or here's the theory, and then you've got to work out the practical bit that's useful for you. So in terms of practical stuff, you know, in terms of socializing, I just tell people, I just say, smile. Just make sure that you smile. And of course, I talk to everyone. It drives my husband mad. My father came to visit me in London in 1994 when I first got there. And I'd just come out to them, and it was all, you know, I was 26 or something. And we're on the tube, and this is a man who was a real man's man, golfer. He's nudging me. I'm going, what? I think that guy's checking out. I think that guy, what? This is my father, who's never talked about this shit in his life. You know, he's doing, I mean, that's, you know, that's about, but it's about smiling and talking to people. I will go up, my older boy is mine, but he does the same thing. He talks to anyone. I will talk to anyone. And then every now and then people go, but most of the time, you'll get something back. And it doesn't sometimes, and I've said to you before, I'm anxious, and I'll say something and I'm anxious, and then of course I'm quite spoken, and then people can't quite hear what I'm saying. And then John's rolling his eyes, and then I try and overcompensate for the fact that I've said something that they might misconstrued, and then I put my foot into it. So foot in mouth disease runs in my family. It's fantastic. Do you know what? That doesn't stop me. And it's, you make eye contact with someone and you smile and you make someone's day. I really do think that. Or you say, how are you? Hi, how are you going? And people react positively.
I think I've learned that since, maybe I said it for the book. Like, I was a mute until I was 25, until I was kind of not forced, like ended up in Australia and then went into a sales job, which was really a sadistic choice to do for someone that barely spoke and was anxious around things. But I think what I've realized recently is no matter what I say, like verbally to people, they're not really listening. Like, it's cliche to say it, but they don't remember what you're saying. They remember how you made them feel when you're talking to them. So I do the same. I'll talk. I'm not a natural talker, but when I'm comfortable, I'll keep talking. And then I will talk a little bit more because I'm thinking, oh, they're not going to fill in that gap. And then I go, oh, I'm mumbling. Are they actually listening to me? So I've overthought this whole process. And really, they're just standing there. They're happy I'm talking to them, or they're happy someone's bothered to, actually engage with them or smile at them, like you said, and make eye contact. And then I go away and come down and go, oh, actually, that was okay. Like, it wasn't that bad. And I think what you just said, I could have said anything. As long as you're smiling and you're there and you're present, you've connected with them.
That's a lovely thing, isn't it? And it's a funny thing. I will tell you one thing about me. I love older women. It's getting harder and harder now because I'm getting older. But I've always, since I was a young boy, I could charm an older woman. You asked me how I got through medical school. charm and memory. And hopefully I'm still charming, my memory's going a bit, but it's that's what got me through, right? And I love older women. I just love hanging around them, talking to them, connecting with them, and they really appeal, and they also love the attention and in a warm, engaging way. And if you want to make yourself feel better too, just talk to someone who's looking a bit lonely or whatever. I just think it's lovely when you in the street and somebody, and John will roll his eyes and he'll say, we're walking, and I see somebody approaching who looks really scowling, and I'll make them smile. So I give a challenge to some of my patients. I say, you've got to make someone smile. You've got to make someone smile today.
And I had experience with that the other day on the bus. I'm coming home, I had a pretty long day, and the bus was late and everything else. I was sitting on there, and normally I get my laptop out because there's no one on the buses at the moment, so you've got plenty of room to do things. And I thought, I'll get an hour's work done going back to Northern Beaches in Sydney. And before I chose the front seat because I thought no one's going to sit here. And the driver just turned around and he said, oh, how you going? I was like, yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. And we started chatting. And next thing you know, he talked for 1 hour straight at me, and my cheeks were hurting because I was trying to smile so much. And it wasn't that I'm just not the sort of person to first engage. But I got off the bus and I went, what a lovely man. I was like, he made me laugh. He talks like forever. Like he probably would drive some people mad. But he talked about his dad, his whole story of how his dad came to Australia from the UK, how his dad went traveling and discovered the world because he was in a party one night when his girlfriend, he told her to go home because he drank and couldn't drive home. She went, got in a car crash and died and passed away. And that sent him on this, he went to Europe to kind of forgive himself and find himself, came back, had his family. Then he made sure he took his kids when they were babies everywhere around the world, and they drove Europe. He told me all his stories. And then he got on to how he was I think he said he was a producer. I don't know if it was the ABC and he said his wife then thought she would stay at home, but she got sick of the kids after like 6 months. So then he quit his job, became a bus driver. And I got this whole just rich like picture of his life. And then the big thing that got it for me, he went, and my youngest son's 10 years old. And he goes, you know what's really good? He said, I tell him I love him every day. And we do this, this, and this. And we do jiu-jitsu together. And blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, this guy. Half of me was like, please stop talking originally. And then I just let him talk for an hour. And I thought, how good is that? Like he was probably waiting for someone to talk to all day as well. I thought it was just amazing. I went away and reflected on it. I said, hopefully I can do that a little bit to someone. I should instigate it next time rather than wait for him to do it. So yeah, I went away feeling great. Hopefully he did. So it was just a really nice experience. Just, got this whole picture of his world, So yeah, we definitely connected. But look, we're almost ready to wrap up. I had another a question here from John again. John always fires away the questions at us. And he says his normal question. Oh, he said, my normal question. Oh, he put Richard, but I think it's because you've got Richard in your middle bit here. How do you relax then? So if you are feeling anxious or stressed, tired, whatever it might be, having a crisis moment, whatever it might be, what do you specifically do to relax or bring yourself down? And what do you enjoy doing?
It was funny. I was asked this question on the HarperCollins Facebook Live thing, and my husband was sitting drinking wine. And I said, hey, if I wake up in the morning, think positive thoughts and stretch and breathe, and he spat his wine out.
Text for an answer.
Inspirational. So, you know what? I actually love reading. I've always been an avid reader. But I love TV series. We're watching Ozark at the moment. I don't know if you've seen it. My God.
No, I've seen that.
And so I love lying on the couch, my cat on my lap, glass of wine at hand, and watch TV with the absolute proviso that I stick to my bloody routine, because if I don't, I can just stay up all night. And then I feel buggered the next morning. So I've got a bit older there. I've got to stick to a sleep routine. And what I've also really liked doing recently, and we lovely in the mountains, I've been walking. My God, I've been walking. I've not seen so many people walk their dogs and their kids since the 1970s. I was there. So it's a pretty cool way of also connecting with the neighbors and whatever. And you know what? I know it's funny. I again talking about cricket earlier. I joined the golf club. I haven't played golf for 30 years, but I'm now going out with a mate on Sunday. We're taking our sons.
Amazing.
Wants to play, and I'm going. You know what? It's in my blood. I grew up at a golf club. But the main thing is I love socializing, and I think friendships are so important. And I'm trying to be more mindful of my alcohol as I get older, whatever. Nice glass of wine, nice fire, nice chat, and watching TV with my partner. I love it.
Love it. No, that's great advice. And before we go, tell us, if you want people to find out about you, how can they find out about you? What do you want to plug? Is there a website? Or obviously I will mention the book and everything else in the comments afterwards when I share this. But yeah, how can people find out about you?
I mean, you know, I'm friendly with Osher Gunsberg, who was on the board of Sane Australia with me, and he's also in my book. And he's interviewed me twice now for his podcasts. I don't know if any of you listen to his stuff. He's always fun.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, before I was writing the book, actually, after a board meeting, he said, "Hey, Mark, let's chat about Schizophrenia Week," because it was Schizophrenia Week. And, you know, anyway, I went, yeah, okay, I'll show him. He's sitting there. He says, okay, mate, so what was it like growing up gay in South Africa? I said, that's not about schizophrenia, Osher. You know, we had this great interview, and I think it's amazing talking to interviewers who can get into your head. And so if you'd like to listen to ABC Conversations, I don't know if you know Richard Feidler.
Yes.
So I turned 50, and that was 5 years ago, and he had me on his show, and we went in, and I don't know if you know, God, it's amazingly researched, nearly 3 hours on the phone with his producer. So he does 3 a week. So he knows exactly what questions he's going to ask. It's a real professional.
Yeah.
I met the man ever, and he put his arm around me as he walked into the studio, and he said to me, "Is there anything you don't want to discuss?" So I looked at him and said, "What do you mean, my sexuality?" Because in fact, it was, you know, nothing was personal about me until then.
Of course.
And I turned to him and I said, "Fuck it, I'm 50." And and it was the best interview I've ever done, although you can hear me deep sighing after each question. So, you know, it's a meaningful, when you have a meaningful chat like this, has been a lovely, but of course, Terry and I know and like each other already. So that's incredible. And my book, I'm pretty personal about things, as I want to be. And I want to live my life like Cinderella said. It's a great film, by the way, talking about resilience. But anyway, have courage and be kind. I mean, I honestly do. It sounds silly, and I try desperately when I'm in my car, because one of my friends in London calls me a straight man behind the wheel because I drive like a maniac. I mean, really, I can't stand those people-aters in the fast lane. I'll just put it out there. But anyway, so I'm trying, right? I'm trying my best to be the best that I can be, and not perfect. And so I think that's an important thing. Acceptance, trying to be a nice guy. And, you know, I took the Hippocratic Oath when I became a doctor. And part of that, people don't do that anymore. But part of that oath is, the main part is, do no harm. And that's one of my mottos, do no harm.
Yeah, I love it. No, that's a really beautiful way to end it, Mark. As always, it's always a pleasure chatting to you. And I feel like I learned a ton more tonight as well. Almost forgot these comments were coming down and people were watching this, but no, it's incredible. And hopefully we'll have you back on soon, and we'll chat about it.
Because I had an interview earlier, and then I had my fish and chips in front of Ozark, and I went, "Oh my God, I'm now getting a bit tired." It's been pretty amazing. It's a lovely time of the night and a nice chat, actually. So
amazing. So I will leave that with everyone. Have courage and be kind, from Mark, and I will share obviously the links as well you mentioned in the interviews afterwards to everyone. Absolute pleasure, Mark, and I'm sure we will speak again soon. Hope you have a lovely evening, and we'll see everyone soon. Thank you all. See you guys.